I sometimes feel embarrassed to be part of the tech and AI community because over the last couple of years, we have allowed AI to take over our whole lives and careers to many different extents, to the point where we don't have any regular meetings or events or conferences. Every single one of them is called an AI event or an AI conference or an AI meeting. You can't work on any boring tech startup. No, that's ugly. You gotta work on some revolutionary AI startup. To the point that there are some VCs and investors in San Francisco that will throw millions of dollars at you if you have a half-baked idea with the word AI attached to it. AI has taken over everything. We have AI coders, AI therapists, AI girlfriends now, like AI everywhere. And to its merit, like AI is pretty good. Like have you guys used AI, right? ChatGPT, everyone's used AI to a certain extent because it is pretty good at what it does. The problem that I actually have with AI is the over-exaggerations that people have put out through mainstream media, the dramatizations, and especially the fear-mongering as pertains to people's careers, to students, people trying to break into tech, computer science majors. And specifically what I want to talk about today is the fact that they said AI would replace you by now. And what do I mean by this? I mean, back in 2022, 2023, a lot of people predicted that by 2025, AI would replace you all. That computer science is no longer worth studying, coding is dead, learn something like plumbing or farming instead because AI is about to take over. Don't become a software engineer because AI will replace you. But now that it's 2026 and we're beyond that, the reality is it's nowhere close to the predictions. In fact, there's this one tweet that I think really encompasses this situation the best. People have been saying that software engineering has been within 6 months of being dead since early 2023. So since ChatGPT was a baby, since it could barely write for loops, people have been saying that software engineering would be dead within 6 months. Well, like I said, it's 2026 now. It has been multiple 6 months periods since that has occurred, and we're nowhere near the predictions that they claimed. And so in this talk, I want to cover 3 main points. One, this AI fear narrative, what it is, why it's being propelled, and basically what's out there in the media. Then the problems with AI, because part of the AI narrative relies on people not knowing the issues with AI. So if we can understand those, we can dispel a lot of the myths. The third part is what to actually focus on in this new AI-driven reality. So first, let's talk about the AI fear. And for that, I have this one little scenario that I want to display. So we have a tech CEO or like a tech company, AI company. He goes like, AI will replace you. Your major no longer worth studying. AI, you're cooked. The student goes like, oh shoot, how do I make sure I'm not cooked? How do I AI proof myself? And guess what the tech CEO says? Learn how to use AI. How many of you guys have heard this before? Learn how to use AI if you don't want to get replaced by AI. What on earth does that mean? You see, everyone says learn AI, but AI is such a broad field. There's so many different tools. There's like, are you talking about the LLMs or are you talking about applications? Or are you talking about this or that? Like there's so much to AI. What does that even mean? And then the CEO says, use my company's AI tools and pay me $20 a month and your career will be saved. That if you use my products, you won't be cooked anymore. And this is no different than this scenario. This is a sales pitch I'm talking about here. This is the scenario where you have a slightly overweight friend and he's trying to lose weight and he goes online and he sees all these fitness influencers who tell him, don't eat a salad or don't go to the gym. That's too basic advice. Go and buy my $100 supplement. Otherwise, you'll be fat forever. Basically, the fear in this situation is the marketing scam for the sales pitch. The fear of being in this negative situation forever is the reason the product will sell. And it's the same parallel that is going on with AI. That people's careers will be doomed. Your major is no longer worth studying because of AI, and the only solution is to use AI. The fear is necessary for the marketing to occur. Now, the one big difference between this situation and the AI situation is people more or less know how to lose weight. Like in general, you eat your veggies, you eat your protein, you walk a little bit, you'll generally become a little leaner. But the problem with AI is a lot of people don't understand what is actually going on, like what AI even is. And there's almost like the fear of the unknown paralleled with the fear of the technology itself. That sometimes people fear the fact that they don't know too much about AI as associated with they fear AI basically replacing replacing them. Really quick, we talk a lot about tech and coding on this channel, and so if you're ready to learn to code the right way in 2026, you need to check out Skillshare. I make a lot of videos about learning to code in various different languages on this channel, and over the last few months, I've been looking for new ways to teach you guys properly. So I went on to Skillshare and I found a course called Learn How to Learn Coding Faster, Object-Oriented Programming in Python. This class covered everything from what is object-oriented programming, a simplistic analogy of object-oriented programming, and coding walkthroughs so you can put abstract concepts into real code. Plus, it's interactive learning, so they actually give you a class project to ensure that you know object-oriented programming in Python really well before you finish off. But beyond all that, Skillshare has creative classes taught by world-class creatives with resources in every single domain. This is perfect if you want something technical like coding or something in the arts. If you're ready to learn to code and level up your career, check out Skillshare. The first 500 people to use my link in the description or scan the QR code will receive a 1-month free trial of Skillshare. Get started today. And now back to the video. To expand on this further, this is actually very similar to the example of my grandma and her iPhone. Now that's not an actual picture of my grandma, just put that out there. But my grandma, she has an iPhone, and a while back she was having some problems with her iPhone and she was panicking. She's like, Sajjaad, come help me fix my iPhone up. And so I was like, okay, I checked out her iPhone and she was like, yeah, I can't send any messages, I can't take any pictures. What is going on with my iPhone? And then I was like, okay, so I looked through her iPhone and I was like, oh, your storage is full. Just delete a couple things. It's not that deep. And then she was like, oh shoot. Okay, so then she went into the settings, trying to delete it, and she's like, oh, Bluetooth, can I delete that? And I was like, what now? She tried to delete Bluetooth. And as funny as that might sound, because obviously you can't delete Bluetooth, similar situation occurs with students and people trying to break into tech when trying to encompass AI, because a lot of people don't understand exactly what is AI and the problems associated with it. There tends to be an exacerbated fear associated with it. And so that being said, now let's talk about the problems with AI. Because what better way to understand a technology than to talk about the bad stuff about it? First thing I'm gonna bring up is the sandbox versus production gap. You see, one of the big stalling points for AI being able to take over a lot of careers, as tech CEOs have once predicted, is because of the sandbox versus production gap. And what I mean by this is AI is amazing in sandbox, it sucks in production. And sandbox, for those who don't know, are kind of like practice environments, demo environments. Like if you were to do a sports analogy, it's like your practice, or riding a bicycle with training wheels. Production is more of the real world. Like we have the sports analogy, it's like the NBA, it's like the NFL, it's like riding your bicycle on the highway. This is like the real world. And so AI is amazing in the demo, it sucks in actual production. And for proof of that, we have Devin AI. For those who don't know, Devin was basically the world's first AI software engineer. It was really amazing. Cognition Labs created it. They had a viral video where they saw this like one AI software engineer that took in like coding requirements and like wrote all the code, wrote all the test cases, and basically could work end to end like a real software engineer. When people actually dove deep into it, they realized that it wasn't actually to the level of a real software engineer. In fact, it had a lot of problems with it, because when put up to the actual test, when put up to actual production environments, it could no longer hold up. It was really amazing in the sandbox. It was really amazing in the demo environment. A lot of people thought, and if you saw the video, it looked pretty impressive, as if it could replace software engineers. But once it was actually put out to production, people compared it to a freshman computer science student. So nowhere near the level of actual software engineer type work. And the reason is because AI is really good in familiar environments, but it sucks in newer environments. You see, AI at its core, it's a bot, it's a machine. It takes in data and it spits out data. If it's seen data that it's seen before, if it's familiar with it, it'll operate really good. You see, it'll write a better for loop than anyone here. It'll write a better class while loop or things like that, like semantics that it has seen before. If you ask it to write out a merge sort algorithm, it'll write that better than anyone else. The thing is, in actual production, in actual industry, it is far, far from what it is. In actual industry, no one just wants a baseline for loop. No, they want a for loop for their specific circumstance. They don't want just a templatized website. They want a website that is specific for their circumstance. And so AI is great in doing templatized, repetitive work, as if the world didn't change at all, AI would be perfect. But because we crave innovation as society, AI really can't stand up for that. And so that being said, another example of this is actually this mega loss by Zillow. So So for those who don't know, Zillow is kind of like a marketplace where people find houses, right? You see a bunch of houses, a bunch of listings at various different prices, and people sometimes can make bids, make offers, meet up with the buyer, seller. So a couple years ago, they launched their own AI initiative called iBuyer. And it was basically like this algorithm that could buy low, sell high. It would automatically detect good times to buy houses, and then it would sell when the price was sufficiently, like the profit was good. And it was doing really good. 2018, 2019, it killed it. It was amazing. But then in 2020, when the global pandemic hit and the economy basically went on a roller coaster. At first it tanked, and then the Fed pumped money back up into it. People refinanced their loans. The housing market went crazy. The AI, because it wasn't accustomed to that new environment, it suffered a lot, to the point where the algorithm basically became buy high, sell low, and it got so bad that they had to shut down the program in 2021 because they incurred $500 million in loss. So because of this huge sandbox and production gap that exists within the AI, they had to shut down the program. Now, bringing this back to the developer standpoint, developers before AI tools, before ChatGPT came out, they would spend a couple hours writing some code and then a few hours after that debugging it. Now, they spend such little time in actual code generation, but so much time filling in the gaps. You see, the gap with AI is getting it from the templatized versions of the code that it has seen to the actual use case that you need. You see, like AI is trained on the whole internet. It has seen every single GitHub repository. It has seen everything about code that exists there out on the internet. But the problem is, we as society, we as human beings like to innovate. We like to see new things. And that exact gap between where we stand and where AI is, the exact barrier to AI being able to take over. That's the first problem, sandbox versus production gap. The second issue is the fact that we have human customers with liability issues. You see, we as human beings, at the end of the day, are the customer to any product put out by any AI companies. We are the people that they sell to. Everything that comes with being a human comes with the human problems. We as human beings are the only species that will complain about both problems and solutions. We're the same type of people that'll complain if the road is messed up and also complain if people are on the road trying to fix the problem that we have. So because human beings are constantly in a state of finding problems, that's exactly where another gap of AI lies. And for that, we actually have the scenario with Klarna. So Klarna, a couple years ago, they were a company that tried to become very AI forward. They were like, AI can do all the jobs we as humans can do. We'll replace all of our workers with AI. And they replaced about 700 of their workers with AI effectively. They implemented it. And their goal was to reduce their workforce by 40% using AI. And so they did that. They fired all their people. And then about a year and a few months after that, they brought the humans back in. Because they've found out a lot of quality gaps between satisfying human needs, especially humans that are paying thousands of dollars. There's a huge gap between what they're expecting and what they're actually getting. And when you have AI models that hallucinate kind of like this, it's very hard to always satisfy who you need, especially since the AI, it hallucinates and sometimes doesn't fix its own mistakes. That can anger some people. And so that being said, going forward, there are two areas that I want you all to focus on. Because as much as I'd like to predict the future, obviously I don't have a crystal ball, I'm not a fortune teller. I can only say what the status quo is and a bit of a prediction, but I want to equip you guys with almost kind of like two tools and two mindsets to have going forward so that you'll be able to basically future-proof your career, whatever happens with AI. So the first area, systems orchestrator. A system orchestrator. So you guys should become systems orchestrator. What does that mean? An orchestrator, if you take like a conductor of an orchestra, this is the person that stands in front of the whole line of instruments and basically goes like, tubas, you play, trumpets, you play, percussion instruments, you play. They themselves do not play the instrument, but rather they instruct each type of instrument group to play. And if anything goes wrong, they'll be like, yo, fix this up, or play now, or stop playing then. They're in charge of what the whole orchestra is to put up. Similar degree, that's what's going on with AI. You see, the new era of software engineering, it's not basically like human managers with human engineers, but rather software engineers are becoming software managers over teams of AI agents. Because now, at every single one of y'all's disposals, you have the ability with a tool, for example, like Claude Code, you can develop a whole team of software engineers, AI agents, one dedicated towards front end, one towards back end, one for like test cases, and you can basically develop what a whole team used to do. And the thing is, you should still be the human in the loop. Like, you're still the manager, you're still the conductor. And so what does that mean? You review the test plans each one of your engineers creates. Then you review the code they actually write, because like we established, they can hallucinate pretty badly. Then once you do that, you actually end up creating so much. And the real thing that I appreciate the most of this is creating software used to be really, really difficult. You know, like if you wanted to create a tech startup or create a cool coding project in the past, it actually used to be pretty difficult, where you would need some brilliant idea, and then you would need to find someone who was talented enough in the technology to basically, you could give 50% equity and they would actually develop the whole project, but sometimes their coding wouldn't be that good or the product wouldn't actually be that good, and so then you're kind of stuck in this weird situation. But now at your own disposal, if you have somewhat of a good idea that you want to test out, you can go ahead and test it out right away. You can develop so much faster. And then once again, like I'm saying, the new era of software engineering is this model, because now people are expected to develop at effectively a team's worth of work. Because before, maybe one engineer could develop one feature. Now, if you have AI engineers at your disposal, how many features can you develop? 10, 20, however many that you're able to scale up to. The second thing that I want to enable you guys with is AI enablement. So this is a thing that I feel like a lot of engineers neglect. So a lot of people have tried to focus solely on the coding. They're like, this AI coding tool, that AI coding tool, there's like Claude, Lovable, Replit, Cursor, Windsurf, so many different AI coding tools that people are engrossed with, right? And to be very honest with you, you're not gonna become a drastically different engineer or a drastically different computer science student if you use Cursor or Windsurf. Like, there's some like differences between the two, but you're not gonna, one's not gonna like completely outweigh or like transform you. The thing that I wanted to talk about is AI enablement for everything outside of coding, everything outside of your main functions of society. So what do I mean by this? I would call myself a rather creative person, right? I come up with a lot of ideas, but if I ever want to write that down, I'm basically capped myself at 57 words per minute. That's how fast I type. I don't know if that's good or bad, but I don't like it. So right now, every time I come up with an idea, if I want to write that down on a doc or put it into like a GPT prompt or a chatbot, I'm capped at 57 words per minute. So then I found this one AI tool called Whisperflow. And this is kind of like a voice to text dictation tool. It's way better than like the standard iPhone mic. And it converts all my speech and it properly puts things into paragraphs. Encoding, if like you want to tag a file, it can do that all with your speech. And that has made me effectively write at 138 words per minute. And it's actually phenomenal, because now, instead of spending all my time and energy typing things out, I can speak things out and get things accomplished way faster. And that frees up my time and energy to do more high-value tasks. And so similarly, when you guys are students, try to find different AI tools to augment yourself outside of your coding functionality so you can focus on what's actually important to you. Whether that's like as simple as summarizing your emails, taking care of your meetings, there's tons of tools for that. Or if you're a student who's trying to like learn something, I think like Notebook LM, I heard it's like this amazing AI tool that can like synthesize your notes and create like a podcast for you and do so much for you. Like, try to automate your life outside of everything that you're wasting your time on that isn't your core functionality. And through that, you'll be able to see how much you're enabled and how creative that you can actually be once you're actually focused on basically your main function. Systems orchestration, AI enablement, those are two valuable skills I think you guys should pick up in this new era. And with that being said, I really hope that you guys enjoyed this. Thank you.